Today, we will be learning about autism, its definition and impact, and encouragement from the Joy Ministry. But first, let's pray. Lord Jesus, thank you for bringing us together to once again help us understand the difficulties we are likely to encounter in wrestling with mental disorders in the lives of our loved ones and possibly even ourselves. We know you have a unique plan for each one of our lives. Please help us to better understand and better equip ourselves to deal with both pleasant experiences as well as life's difficulties. Please give us the tools, grace, and encouragement to fight this earthly battle and win. Guide us today to an understanding of your perfect plan for our families. This program is not intended to provide guidance or direction seeking medical assistance, direction, or medications. Referrals and medical assistance should only be sought from your individual physician or competent expert. At this time, I'd like to introduce Carrie Knupp. Carrie serves as a Joy Ministry volunteer and classroom consultant at FBC. She will discuss what the Joy Ministry does at FBC. She will also discuss autism and how it is defined. Carrie will discuss how autism can impact our families, what to do when you believe your child is autistic, and what are the steps when your child is identified with autism. Please welcome Carrie.
Thank you. You guys really need me to use the microphone? Am I loud enough? No? Okay. Geez. All right. Thank you for having me this morning. Sorry about the technical issues. If I had one of my kids with autism, they probably would have figured it out before me. So pretty good about this stuff, let me tell you. All right, so today we're going to learn a little bit more about me, Beth Fowler, who wasn't able to make it today, but I've got a little presentation from her as well. We'll talk about the Joy Ministry, autism, understanding autism from a caregiver's perspective, some supports, and then also I was told that you guys are interested in some information about ADHD. So I have kind of a quick look at that, and then there's some overlappings between autism and ADHD, so we'll talk about that as well. Okay, so I am a special education teacher for students with autism. I've been doing that, this is my 6th year teaching. I work in Prince William County. I'm a self-contained teacher, meaning I'm in a classroom. Usually we can only go up to 8 students. I have 7 right now. And I have grades 1st through 5th, so it's very fun. I have kids that are on the SOL track that go out into gen ed. I have kids that will do an alternative track. So there's a lot going on in self-contained classrooms. My background, I worked at a law office for like 15 years, and I taught privately in kindergarten and preschool for like 8 years prior to becoming a special education teacher. I am the classroom consultant here at FBC. I also have a certificate in ABA therapy, which we'll kind of talk about with this as well, and I'm working on becoming a board certified behavior analyst. So in that role, kind of helping the other classrooms here at FBC, if they're having difficulty with the student or they're concerned that that child may need more support, I kind of go in and observe and give some tips and tricks and kind of help allow the classroom to run a little bit more smoothly. And then I volunteer for the Joy Ministry. I was trying to remember how long. I think 5 years maybe I've been with Joy. I think that's right. So we started downstairs. We kind of have to move, and Lori Rucker over here, she's going to talk a little bit more too. So I say she's the leader of Joy. She says she's the co-leader. We work together. We have to kind of go wherever the need is. So we kind of move all over throughout the children's ministry. Beth, who was not able to make it, but she did a little video for us. So she also has a master's in special education. She taught for 10 years. She's the mom of 3 boys. 2 have autism and ADHD. It's her oldest and her youngest. And then we've worked with both of her boys and Joy, the oldest and the youngest one. So she'll talk a little bit about that in her video. All right, Lori, I'll have you come up too. But I just kind of put what our mission is for Joy: to promote and facilitate an inclusive community of FBC that provides resources for discipleship and shepherding of individuals with special needs, and recognizes the contribution that all believers bring to the church family. One thing we had to really work on switching, people were worried that we were saying, oh, your child has a disability. It's not always the case if we work with them. It can be a physical disability, social, emotional, mental. There's a broad range. Sometimes it's just that child's going through a hard time in life. Maybe the parents got divorced. I mean, it could be anything, but it could be a temporary thing. We're not excluding anyone, and we're not only working with children that specifically have a disability. And I'll give it to Lori. Be careful. All right.
Hi, I'm Lori Rucker. I've been in the Joy Ministry now for, I'm guessing, around 12 years. And I got into it because I kept seeing in the paper bulletins, every time I went to church, needed Joy Ministry. I'm like, what's that? So I looked into it and found out what it was, and I said, okay, Lord, sounds like this is where you want me to go. And so I went, and I do, though my background is not in any way special needs, it seems the Lord has put special needs people in my life a lot of my life. So sorry, maybe you couldn't hear me before, I wasn't close enough. So I have a heart for kids with special needs, or anyone for that matter. And so Carrie and I are kind of co-leaders. She has the background, and I do a lot of the kind of administrative stuff and work with the parents and do the scheduling and that kind of thing. Has anybody ever heard of the Joy Ministry? I mean,
I've heard of it.
okay,
Oh,
you have?
good.
Okay, good to know. It's just been a smaller ministry as far as number of volunteers and number of kids over the years. So a lot of people are like, what's that? When I first started, we had the little tiny storage room when you go down to the elementary area on the left. That was our Joy room, and Deborah Clark, if you know her, she's worked at this church for a very long time. She was the teacher, and we had a whole curriculum that she would use, not the regular curriculum, because we could be teaching first graders through fifth graders. And so there's a big range there. And I was just a Joy buddy. I would go in and be a buddy to one or more of the kids in there, along with one other volunteer, usually plus Deborah. And so it's ranged anywhere from 5 to 10 kids over the years, but not much more than that. And when Deborah had to step down, we decided to go the buddy route and just buddy kids within the existing classroom. And so currently, we are both in preschool and elementary now. And we have a room that's kind of like a quiet room in the preschool ministry, and we now are going to make the resource room, if you know where that is, it's next to the storage room, right there in the lobby area downstairs. That's going to be our Joy Ministry, and we're kind of making it inviting, putting beanbag chairs in there and that kind of thing, because when these kids there's too much noise or whatever just kind of sets them off, we need a quiet place to go. And so that's where we go. We try to keep them in the class so that they can learn about God, but sometimes you can't. And we also like to try to build relationship with these kids too, and sometimes outside the classroom for a little while is a good thing for them to get to know their buddy. So that's kind of how it works. The Joy brochure, I don't know if anybody's ever seen them, but these are sitting around in the home center, in front of some of the classrooms. We developed this for any special needs, as Carrie was saying. The scripture verse that we have in it, I'd like to read to you, is from 1 Corinthians 12, 21 through 25. It's parts of it. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you, And the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seem to be weaker and indispensable, and the parts that we think are less honorable, we treat with special honor. But God has combined the members of the body and has given greater honor to the parts that lacked it, so that there should be no division in the body, but that its parts should have equal concern for each other. And so that's the scripture that we really look to when we think about Jesus and how he walked the earth and looked at all the people and everyone that has, the needs physically, socially, emotionally, mentally. And Paul, wrote this passage valuing the diversity of the body of Christ. We're all members of the body. We need everyone. We're all made in the image of God. And when we don't engage all the members of the body, we are trying to function without one of our members. And it's not intended that way. So there's beauty in every single one of us. So that's kind of the Joy Ministry and how it was founded. And our vision, which is also in the brochure, our vision is to see the body of Christ made more complete through discipling and integrating people with special needs into the life and mission of FBC. So thank you.
Is that an acronym, Joy?
No.
They've
asked that before. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
I've heard.
You know what I reference it to, because there is an acronym out there. It's Jesus, others, you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. But it wasn't founded upon that, but I like how it fits right in there, doesn't it? Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions about the Joy Ministry? Yes, sir.
Let's see. The Joy Ministry is about, I'm one of them with special needs myself. I have autism, I have ADHD, and some other disabilities that are just part of who I am. I find it to be, I don't accept myself with these disabilities because I've been poked fun of, I've been ridiculed, I've been harassed, like I don't exist.
Mm.
So anybody with a disability, they're not normal, they're abnormal. That's what it looks like, and I'm not normal.
Neither am I, John.
I was going to say, are any of us?
Yeah.
But you have special gifts.
Yes,
that
I
other
do.
people do not.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we are all fearfully and wonderfully made.
Right, exactly.
And God loves us more than we know.
Yep.
Right.
Amen. And as I said, you are part of the body, and we need every single part of that body to be whole.
We
And
can't be a part of it without it.
yes.
That's right.
Amen. Thanks for sharing, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just speaking to that, I mean, that's a big part of Joy too, is we want families to feel included. And I understand, I've known that there's families that have come to us that have gone to other churches and they did not want to have their child participate in like the classes with the other students, and they were very separated. We've had many families come to us because they're very happy that we do buddy alongside and we make sure everybody feels included. So it's been the Joy Ministry has been a really great instrument here at the church, I would say. All right. So hopefully you guys have heard of some of these people. Anthony Hopkins, an Academy Award-winning actor. Dan Aykroyd, comedian actor. Daryl Hannah, actress. Susan Boyle.
Wow.
Greta Thunberg. I don't know. I'm sure you all have heard of at least one of these people, right? They all have autism.
Wow.
So if you didn't realize that, something to think about. We'll talk about them a little bit later because I'm gonna show you later where they actually discuss how their autism made them so successful in what they do today and how it's a gift for them. All right, and then here's a quick video I have. I like how she kind of explains what it means to be on the spectrum, because it really is difficult to understand if you're not on the spectrum and you don't understand how different everybody is. Yeah, and I like that because the way she shares it, and I don't know if you've heard before, everybody says if you've met one autistic person, you've met or one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. And that's exactly why, because every person is completely different.
And also unique.
Exactly, yes, yes. All right, we got this. Okay, so definition. I don't want to read all of these things necessarily, but this is really important, and it was a big sticking point for me when I came. We went a little back and forth. I felt like I was not, I felt a little aggressive. But I wanted to make sure that even though autism, it is in the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, and they use 5 buckets of criteria to diagnose autism, but autism is not a disease or illness. Because, you think the DSM-5 diagnoses mental health disorders, but it also diagnoses neurodevelopment disorders. So autism and ADHD are both neurodevelopmental disorders. It's not mental health. And that's really important to make sure that everybody understands that it is a neurodevelopmental disorder. It's just there's something in the brain development and function that's different from that of a typical child. In today's world of diversity, we should understand that the term different should not be construed in a negative way.
Now, the video you had of showing the different knobs being in different places for autism, that's the same way with people with ADHD. Their knobs are in different places.
Right, yeah. And I said there's a lot of similarities, and I have a little table at the end that shows like how they there's a lot of overlap in autism and ADHD. But exactly. So we're gonna go kind of quickly through the criteria, but think about that, like she said, when you're thinking about each of these criteria, again, it's those knobs. So when you're talking about deficits in social emotional reciprocity, so engaging in a back and forth. Again, every time somebody's going to be different. They might have none of this. They might have some, all, every time, every one of these criteria, you want to think about that those knobs could be turned to any degree. Deficits in nonverbal communication behavior, so difficulty understanding language or gestures, tendency to communicate using minimal facial expressions or body language, and dislike of eye contact. And interesting, so we've talked about this, there's a lot of cultures that, that can be you also have to think, this is me being in a school system, culturally sometimes it's like also inappropriate if there's not eye contact, or there should be, there's a lot of things that kind of go along with that can be confusing, but a lot of children or individuals with autism do not like to make eye contact. But that doesn't mean all of them. I have students in my classroom that will look me straight in the eyes and there's no problem with that. Verbal and nonverbal presentation, like smiling when something's said negative, sudden topic shifts, awkward eye contact, difficulty moderating tone and or volume of voice. Does this make sense? Does anybody have questions about that? As I go through, please feel free to just raise your hand if you have a question. They have deficits in developing or maintaining and understanding relationships. So starting and maintaining friendships, difficulty with shared imaginative play, difficulty with context shifting, misinterpreting sarcasm or humor, inappropriate responses in social situations, difficulty adapting to new environments. And then restrictive or repetitive patterns of behavior, let's see, stereotypical or repetitive motor movements, use of objects or speech. So stimming, echolalia, scripting, lining up objects or toys. Does anybody have questions as to what that means? Because I have a student in my class, echolalia is big, where he'll just repeat what I say. Scripting, I have another student that's big on that he will just, he'll just tell you something, so he doesn't know how to respond to you, so he'll use like a line from a show or like a line from a movie, and he's still trying to communicate with me. He just doesn't know how to communicate, so he'll use that to help him communicate his needs. Yes?
What is stimming?
So stimming, you'll see it can be a lot of different things. You'll talk like hand flapping. Sure you've probably heard about people saying children will like flap their hands. I have a little girl that she'll use her finger. She likes the visual look of that. Sometimes it's like banging on something. It can be a lot of different things.
So it's
It's like
body
usually a
gestures?
movement. Yeah, it's usually a movement. I always find that interesting because I think, for me personally, we all, like, everybody kind of does this, even us in general. Like, if you're nervous, does anybody, like, tap your finger? Yeah, do your foot. It's the same thing,
Yeah.
honestly. For us, though, we understand what kind of works socially. You know, you can do that and not stand out in a crowd, right? Where they have a very difficult time, what helps them, and it usually helps them to, like, regulate and calm themselves down. But it may be more,
It's an anxiety reducer.
a lot of times, yeah. And it is for us as well, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Or an attempt to reduce things.
Yes.
It doesn't always work.
Right. So, but for an individual with autism, theirs may look a little more prevalent, and they don't understand that it doesn't look, that it may not be something you want to do socially. I mean, sometimes it's like twirling. I mean, you know, it's just more noticeable. But really, we do it too. You know, like I said, we all do it. So. All right. Highly restricted or fixated interests that are abnormal in intensity. So the tendency to learn a lot about one particular subject, and then they'll turn it back to that topic. I'll just have to talk about our students because they're fun. So my one child, he's in 5th grade, and he loves the Lawrence Welk show, which I am too young to have even watched. But he will bring everything back to that. He'll start talking. I'm like, is that from the Lawrence Welk show? And he's like, yes. So he loves the Lawrence Welk show, and he'll just, and that's what I'm saying. It'll be like the most random, you know, like he just brings it up, and it has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Maybe it's the
But
bubbles.
what's that?
Lawrence Welk always had bubbles.
He loves the music. He loves all old shit. Like he loves Green Acres, which I also do. Like he's just really fun. Yeah, he loves all these old shows. So like he'll just say lines from these, and I'm like, yep. So it's really funny. And then some will love, like, I have another student that loved astronauts. I had another one that loved dinosaurs. So just those types of things, which actually it can be really interesting because they know a lot. I mean, my one student who normally is echolele and he'll just repeat things, he can tell me all these dinosaurs. I don't even know the names, but he's telling me, he's right. I don't know. I have to look it up. And I'm like, oh, he's right. That's just the name of that dinosaur. But, you know, I have no idea. So there's also hyper or hypo-reactivity to sensory input or unusual interest in sensory aspects. So there can be sensitivity to light, sound, touch, smell, food textures, or less response to sensory input. Interest in visual patterns, craving tactile experiences such as touching surfaces and smelling objects. I've had students that if we have a video on the screen, like they watch it from here, which is something, like he loves that, like seeing it from that angle. I had another student that, he only drinks for his eating. Like he's super sensitive to food, like the texture of food, and he'll actually like gag if he eats actual food. Like it can be pretty extreme. Most of them are not as you know, you don't notice them that much. But like Lori was saying, like getting the bags for like the bean bag, if they're overstimulated and they want to go in there, like you have a bean bag, like that's soft. Like they may like feeling like something around them. In the preschool we got like a spinny chair because a lot of them like to spin. So like just finding those things that help them with either when they're overloaded on those sensory or when they need that, like they can need the sensory input or they need a break from the sensory. All right, so these last criteria, so it's just that the symptoms must be present in the early developmental period. Symptoms cause clinically significant impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of current functioning, and then the disturbances are not better explained by intellectual disability or global developmental delay. So those are all just like the buckets that they use to do the actual diagnosis. I don't know if anybody watches Big Bang Theory. I personally really like it. But they have some good examples, so I just put these in for a little bit of fun so you can kind of see what we're talking about.
Sheldon?
I bet that started off as a joke, but by the third one you realize there was something strangely enjoyable about it.
Yeah, I kind of want to do it again.
recommended you'll be doing it the rest of your life.
So if you ever watch it, he has to knock on the door 3 times every time. But honestly, like talking about that repetitive behavior, like people will have like these repetitive behaviors. He's just such a good example. Although they say on the show he's not supposed to be based on someone that has autism, but his examples are great.
Oh yeah, you can't sit there. Why not?
That's where Sheldon sits.
You can't sit somewhere else? You see, in the winter, that seat is close enough to the radiator so that he's warm, yet not so close that he sweats. In the summer, it's directly in the path of a cross breeze created by opening windows there and there. It makes the television at an angle that isn't direct, so we can still talk to everybody, yet not so wide that the picture looks distorted.
Perhaps there's hope for you after all.
So it is funny, but there is a lot of rigidity in individuals with autism a lot of times, and we try to work on that at school. You understand, and they need that. That's why there's a lot put in place. You have schedules, you have routines, which are very important, but they also have to learn a little bit of, if there's a change, like how do they handle that? Because some have a really difficult time with any type of change, transitioning from like one place to another place. So as funny as that is, like that always has to be a seat. Like there are students that are like, no, I have to sit in the first chair. Like I always have to sit here. And if somebody's sitting there, like it can blow up their whole day. So it is funny, but it also can be real. All right, so I said we would go back. So I wanted to just say that, so Anthony Hopkins. So now, they've changed it. I put it down here at the bottom. So in 2013, the American Psychiatric Association released the DSM-5, and in that edition, Asperger's, which I'm sure you guys have probably all heard of, but that syndrome was removed as a separate diagnosis. So it used to be like they would say like people had Asperger's, and then they had autism. Now they're just doing the spectrum. So, but at this time, Anthony Hopkins, he was diagnosed with Asperger's. So he said that helped him to focus intensely, letting him memorize long scripts and portray complex characters with precision. And I will say that I know a lot of my students, they can watch something one time and like they'll know it. And even my stepson, who has not been diagnosed, but I feel certain that he's on the spectrum, he can listen to like the first like 20 seconds of like the intro of a movie, like just the music, and he's like, oh, you're watching, and he'll tell us, and I'm like, how do you know that? Like it's amazing. So Dan Aykroyd, his special interests include police work and the paranormal, which directly inspired Ghostbusters. So like I said, when they have something that they love and they'll learn so much about it because it's such an interest to them. Daryl Hannah, as a child, she struggled socially and avoided interviews, but her autism gave her a deep creative imagination that fueled her acting. Susan Boyle said after her diagnosis of Asperger's, she said that it gave her relief and understanding about her struggles, and she credits her strong memory for her ability to recall music. And then Greta Thunberg, she calls her autism her superpower, saying it gives her the clarity to see climate issues in black and white terms and speak out fearlessly when others stay silent. And you will see that a lot where it's very like factual. I have students that are really good with like, usually they're very literal and they have a very hard time. I had a student one time where I said, oh, like you get butterflies in your stomach. And I just set him off. You cannot have butterflies in your stomach. I was like, not really. It's just a saying. Like that can be very difficult to understand. And not all of them. I have a student now that is very good with that. He'll tell you puns and like he's hilarious. It's the Lawrence Welk kid. But usually, it is very black and white. Like it's very difficult for them sometimes to understand that figurative language. So like when you're speaking to someone, just understanding that because they don't understand what you're saying. They'll take it very literally.
It sounds
such as the butterflies in your stomach.
Sounds like your boy who likes Lawrence Welk is turning out to be the star of the day this morning.
Yeah, he's new to me this year, so he's pretty fun.
I would love to meet this boy.
Yeah, he's pretty fun. He's a character for sure.
My oldest son has Asperger's, and there are challenges because he also has OCD, and so we'll be at Thanksgiving meal, and he's very rigid in his thinking, so things gotta go in order, everybody, so who's gotta sit here, but the other side is enjoying the intensity. He's a full-time youth minister. How excellent he is at his job, and the things that come out of his mouth in terms of his learning and his focus. I love it.
I know, like, I love that she says her superpower, because honestly, I feel like a lot of them do have a superpower. Like, it is amazing to me,
It
like,
turns out to be his
things that
superpower.
we could not even do. You know what I mean? Like,
His brother,
Yeah.
my other son, doesn't have, and my Asperger's son is like going to the moon with success. You know?
right. So I don't know when you want to do the break, because the next part is going to be Beth's video. So do you want to take a break, or do you want me to keep going? It's up to you. Like, this might be a good time if you want to, but we also started late, so we can just keep going if you
It's up to
want.
you, Carrie, whichever you.
Does anybody feel like they want a break? Are you guys tired of listening to me yet? I mean, we're going to listen to a video, so it won't be me. All right, we'll go ahead. So this next one is Beth Fowler, as I said. So she was going to come today and she couldn't make it, but she's the one that her two sons, one no longer has a buddy. He's in 6th grade, right? He's in 6th grade now. The youngest is 4, so we have him in the preschool, and he's like one of my best friends. I actually go over there, like, for real. I love him. So I even babysit them sometimes. So we'll listen to Beth talk about, it's about 5 minutes, so we'll listen to her talk about her boys.
Hello, thank you so much for being here today, and I'm so sorry I could not be there in person. My name is Beth, and my husband Steve and I have 3 children. Ryan, who is 11, Benjamin, who will be 10 on Tuesday, and Henry, who is 4. 2 of our boys, Ryan and Henry, are on the autism spectrum, and I'm going to speak a little bit about that today and what that looks like as a family. So Ryan was diagnosed in 2018 when he was 4, and Henry was diagnosed more recently in 2023. Like many families, our journey with autism has been filled with a lot of challenges, but also with a lot of unexpected blessings. When we moved from Leesburg to Winchester in 2021, one of the things that was most important to us was finding a church that would educate and support Ryan, because at that time Ryan was the only child with the autism diagnosis. And when we found Fellowship Bible Church and learned about the Joy Ministry, we were really excited. So they came right alongside him, supported him at his level, and it was just really wonderful. 2 summers ago, Ryan got baptized, which is amazing, and it's just a really wonderful program. So later on, when Henry was about 2, so about 2 years ago, around that same time that Ryan was interested in being baptized, it kind of became apparent that Henry would also need extra support. So we contacted Lori Rucker with the Joy Ministry, and we became acquainted with Carrie, and she became a favorite of Henry's very quickly, and we became full-time participants in the Joy Ministry. And honestly, we would not be able to attend church as a family without it. This ministry makes it possible for our children to be cared for and included, and for us as parents to worship without worrying. Even though both Ryan and Henry have autism, they're both very different from each other. So Ryan has more of a difficulty understanding and processing language, while Henry has more of a challenge expressing himself. So just like anybody, every individual with autism has unique strengths and weaknesses, and I think that's really important to not put autism in a box. A lot of times you might think of more severe cases, but it is a spectrum, so there are lots of kids that have very differing needs from one another. So both of my boys started early intervention around 18 months. With Ryan, it was more challenging because the doctors kept saying, oh, he's a boy, he'll develop, but my mom really felt very strongly that like something was off. So she's the one who encouraged us to go through early early intervention, and we did that and found out that he did have a delay at that time. That was around 18 months old, but he did not get his formal diagnosis until age 4. In between that time, he did a lot of therapy. So instead of sports practices and other extracurricular activities, where we are is we're at doctor's offices, we're at specialists, we're at speech therapy, we're going to ABA therapy. These are occupational therapy, physical therapy, feeding therapy, you name it, we're there trying to make life a little bit easier for our family, but most importantly for our children. Because nobody wants their child to constantly be in crisis or in the fight or flight kind of state that a lot of kids can be in at a lot of times. So it can be very challenging, and it can be hard to relate to other parents around you in your community when your kids aren't on sports teams together, aren't doing these other things together because they are working on other things. So life with 2 children on the spectrum, is pretty different from what many families experience. So our routines, our challenges, the way we think about the future, and it just looks different, but over time it definitely has become our new normal. Autism has definitely shaped how we parent, how we plan, and how we lean on our community. One of the biggest lessons that I have learned is that support systems really truly matter. Having people who understand, who come alongside you, who love your children for exactly who they are, makes all the difference. So we are just so thankful for the Joy Ministry and a church that sees children with special needs not as a burden, but as a blessing, and that helps to equip these families like ours to be part of the body of Christ. So to any parent who may be beginning this journey, I just want to say you're not alone. There are resources and communities and people who will walk beside you. Life may look a little bit different than what you expected, but it can also be full of joy. So thank you so much for letting me share a little part of our story, and I hope that you have found today informative and helpful. Bye-bye.
I love working with Beth and like having her talk too from the parent standpoint, and to talk a little bit too, which Lori knows a little bit about Henry, her youngest one, to really give you guys a bigger picture. So we started working with him when he was in the 2s, and at that time he had very minimal language. So sometimes these students, I've had children that spoke, like were talking when they were young, and then they can lose like their ability to speak when they get older. Sometimes they will go years and not be able to speak. I had a teacher that I work with, her son has autism, and then in 5th grade he started speaking. So you never know what's going to happen, and as far as like communication, but it can be huge when we're talking about behavior. So I'm going to use Henry as an example because I know Beth is okay with that. So when he started in the 2s, he had very minimal language. So you can imagine children in their 2s already have difficulty, sharing and that type of thing. Well, his go-to was to throw something or hit because he couldn't say, I want to play with that. They already struggle with that in general, right? But when you don't have those communication skills, you see a lot of the behaviors. How else are you going to verbalize what you want? Somebody's too close to you, you're going to hit them. You need them to move away from you, right? So, working a lot on that. So like, just like she says, when they're doing the speech and the OT and the ABA, like they're working on a lot of those things. And that's where I, really once I came into Joy, I was like, I'm doing that with my students. Like I should really join this ministry and like I can help in the classroom. So, when I'm in there, even though it's an hour, I'm working a lot on how, we have to have quiet hands. We can't just hit. Remember, we want to ask for, so teaching them, but and it's a lot of time, hours. Henry now is in the 4s, still has a buddy, but I'm like, he is very close to not needing a buddy. He now is so cute. He's, he will ask if he wants to, sometimes he still needs a reminder, but then he'll be like, he'll tell them because he learns and that's not available. He does that with stuff like, that's not available. But, he'll tell other kids, like, use your words, because I'm constantly, use your words. We don't, use your words. Yeah.
What is ABA?
So that is applied behavior analysis, and it is a lot. So usually when you go to the pediatrician, and if your child is diagnosed with autism, they will recommend normally that you go to ABA therapy. It helps with behaviors. There are a lot of families that do not like it, and I think, so this is the degree I'm working on, so I've learned a lot about it, but it used to be very like over and over, you're kind of doing this, it's called discrete trial training, so you're doing something with them over and over, and it can be very frustrating, and sometimes leads them to more behaviors because they get frustrated, and I think like, it used to be done like such a way that sometimes that would happen. It's evolved, so I think now it's much better. It depends on your child. It depends on who you get as your therapist. It also depends on, how they want to work. To me, it depends on the child. You can't do that over and over. Some of these kids are so smart that even if they can't speak to you, they're bored that they're doing the same thing over and over. And if you're bored, you're going to have behaviors. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to see it again. So just really understanding the child. I think now the therapies are much better. Some are also more of like a play-based. But even if you think about, let's say you're like modeling, I'm sure you guys have all heard that. So you're showing the example, right? You're modeling, they don't know how to play. You're going to show them, okay, here's a car. This is what we do. That's modeling, right? Showing the child, like we run it down the little road. We do this, you do it, they do it. That's actually also ABA. So there's like things that we do anyway that are also under that umbrella.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Hey, I went out to the literature rack to see if we had brochures we can give out, but there was one. So I want to pass this around.
We'll ask it that. Here's another one.
Yeah, we'll pass this around and take a look at it, jot down any information, take a picture of it if you need, and they can end up on the back table. If you feel like Lord wants you to take this home, then take it home and become part of the ministry.
Yes, please. We're always looking for, it's really been a struggle for us to get volunteers. And we have a variety of, I tend to work with the more difficult ones, usually the ones that are new coming in, that the ones that are non-speaking, that can have a lot of big emotions and behaviors, because that's what I'm doing every day. So to me, it's not a big deal. I'm happy to have anybody come. Some of our volunteers, obviously, that's not going to be at their comfort level at all. And we have plenty of children that can still be buddied, that just need that little extra support. Sometimes it's just staying on task in the classroom and paying attention. So there are lots of opportunities for volunteers, or if you know somebody that might want to volunteer, that would be great too.
Or know of a family that's not going to church.
Yeah.
That might have a special needs child.
That was
exactly
very striking about what she said. Our family wouldn't be able to go to church without this.
Yeah, and like I said, because that's why I wanted to let you know, when Henry came, he had a lot of big emotions, and it could be difficult, and he would get called, they would have to come and leave church and go and take care of him. And then once I started working with him, and we kind of had a separate room for him, and our children's ministry has been fantastic. They are so good at supporting our ministry and giving us the extra space, the extra rooms, whatever equipment that I feel that we need to help them feel successful.
Sorry, I'm full of questions.
They have some too. Go ahead.
So I just want to understand the Joy Ministry in a wider context. So you have the Joy Ministry here, but that's on Sunday, and then what are they doing during the week? Are they getting care during the week, or this operates all week long?
No, we are just on Sundays. We are actually under the umbrella of the children's ministry. So when the children are here for their classes, their Sunday children's ministry classes, we are there to support them during that time. Okay. Beth and I are going to be starting a community group. We're working on talking about that, where we want to have people come. I think it's going to be once a month, at least to start with, so families can get together. And the idea is that we would be in one area. We'll meet in the preschool so the children can come. That's the other thing that's difficult. So she said, how do I can't go to a community group for them, because it's hard to go to somebody's house and bring your child that has autism to a house they've never been to. You don't know what they're going to get into. It's hard. It's very difficult. So I was like, well, we should just do one at the church where everybody can come. You guys can meet. I can use the joy room across, have somebody with me, help watch the kids. If we need to bring the parents over, it's not a big deal. Like, everybody understands, but it's comfortable. The kids know the place. They know us. You know, the parents are right there. Then the parents can at least speak to each other too, because often you do feel very isolated. You know, like she said, there are, you know, you want that group of community, but it is very, I know the parents of my students, they feel like that too. Most of them do not ever have a babysitter for their child. First of all, who do you trust to watch your kid? I mean, you know, it's hard. I've had students that elope at every, like, they run out. It's so dangerous. They have locks on their doors at home because they will run out into the street. I mean, there can be some severe and very scary situations. And can you imagine leaving your child? Like, you're not going to just say, well, I'll just get a babysitter. You know, it's not like everybody else where you can say, I'll just get the kid down the street to babysit. Like, you can't, you know? So a lot of them are never going out on their own. They're not leaving. They're just with their children all the time.
So the second part of my question is, do you know what they're getting all week long, Monday through Friday?
Most of them, like her children, Henry's at preschool, so, and you guys may end up having some of these organizations come and speak, I'm not sure. Did you ever talk to anybody from NREP? I don't know if you guys have. NREP is a program in Frederick County that works with children with disabilities, so they do a preschool. So there are places that they can go.
What about adults?
For adults, I don't know. Not me personally, I don't know. Beth may know, and I'm sure there's connections that we can find. I know you guys are working on getting some other people that are coming in too that are going to talk. Like, I know there's like NW Works that has programs for adults. I've had people in the past that have gotten like jobs through them and gotten some support with them. But I don't know a lot about that.
Grafton's gonna come. Integrated Health is gonna be next month.
Okay, yeah, so Grafton
they're
Integrated.
also
Yeah, so they
on-
will probably also have some more information as far as that goes. I know more about the children, you know, that, and just because I'm coming from like the teacher standpoint or point of view. Did you guys have more questions back there?
Yeah.
Or comments?
We're looking for caregivers for me because I'm almost 46 years old, but I need someone to watch over me, like take places. Like my mom is doing things, and I need someone to do things with, because I need like supervision, like cooking or
Right.
places. We have one right now, but she can only work Monday through Friday, but we don't have one for the weekend.
Okay, yeah. And I can ask, Beth may know some other services. Who's the caregiver now? Like, do you know what they're through? Is it through an organization?
They're with Good Hope.
Okay. And I'm sure there's places that I personally do not know. I wish I did. I don't know all that information. I can definitely ask Beth, though, if she knows of anybody as well. Or someone that, at least if we can connect to somebody that connects you to somebody, you know what I mean? Like you said, if you've got Grafton coming out, they may also have those resources. There are resources out there. It's just finding them. One of my dreams was always to have like I would love to have like one place where you go and like through every stage of life, like, you know, like you almost like you have a case manager, like for your whole, like, okay, at this age, this is what you need. And like, we'll get you set up, because it's so, you know, it's so much information. Like, I mean, you heard what she said. They've got OT, PT, speech, you know, like, can you imagine you go into your pediatrician, they're like, all right, your child's been diagnosed. We need you to do this, 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 this. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot. It's very overwhelming for the families. So this is from Beth as well. Yes.
I have two specific questions. One is, you know how sometimes children with autism can decode reading?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it sounds like they're fluent readers and that they're reading very well and at a high level. But when you ask them a question about what they've read, sometimes they can't answer you. They can't comprehend what they read. Is there a reading program that is designed to help with that situation?
So through the school, there are several programs that they've used. I don't feel like any are that amazing that I'm like, yes, you want to go with this. I have found for the students in my room, the comprehension part can be very difficult. I've also noticed that with a lot of mine, like they will learn, like they're very good. A lot of times that rote memorization, they're so good with. So like sight words they'll remember, you know what I mean? And I've had students that are like, oh my gosh, they're an amazing reader. They know so many words, but then if it's a word they don't know, they replace it with a word they know. So it's just them memorizing those words. So there was a program before that was more based on that, which I really didn't like because you're not getting that like phonetic awareness either. So they're actually like sounding out words and like being able to read the words. For me, with mine, I do a lot of visuals. So doing a story that has visuals along with it, and then having those visuals for your answers as well. So then, so for my students that are a little bit lower, even the non-speaking students, like I can do that with them. So we'll do a story, it has visuals with it, and then when we're asking the comprehension questions, there's visuals that go with those answers.
So,
And that helps a lot too, the visuals.
right, that is very helpful.
Yeah.
You're making the books, and that's very time consuming.
Well, yeah. So there is a program now. It's called Teach Town, which is for, you're going to know being through the school system, but these are it's more of a program for students that are not the SOL based. They're more of like the VSOL, for you guys that don't know. So when they get to a certain grade, everybody I'm sure has heard of SOLs. So they also have VSOLs. For the students that can't participate in SOLs, they've now created, they're like a more, it's another version of the SOLs, but it's easier for the other students to access the information. So it also has visuals, and they do the same tests as the other ones. Like if it's science, they have to do science, but it's based off of pictures, so they choose a picture.
But it's already designed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And Teach Town is a program that's already designed. News to You is a program that I've used. It's called News to You.
News to you.
And they have unique, so like they're things you can purchase, and they also have visuals, and it also has it broken out. So some will have like less text, more visuals, then it can go to another level where there's more text, not as many visuals, and then they can be all text with a little bit, so it varies to help them progress as well.
Friend that's a grandmother of a child with autism, and that was her concern, and she seems to be reading, but
Right.
she can't comprehend what she's reading. And I was just wondering if they developed anything. So it's News for You and Teach Town. And the
Yeah.
same person says that ARC as kind of an open gym time where you can take children with disabilities, and that's worked pretty well for this upper elementary child.
Oh, like social.
Well, just, so she's doing something while her typically developing brothers
Oh, gotcha.
sisters are doing something. And she doesn't do well in the structured after school sports, so this is something that she can do.
Yeah. And that is, like she said, it's hard. There's not a lot of activities. I know there was, and if for after school activities, I think Front Royal maybe had like a baseball team for children with disabilities. It's hard to find like activities though too. But I think we're getting more resources. Beth is definitely, if anybody has questions about any of those type of things, I left my email up here, but you guys can let me know and I can always reach out to her. If I don't know the answer, I can try to find someone that knows the answer. So these are from her. So if you feel that your child has a disability, autism, the first step, you want to talk to your pediatrician, share your concerns directly, give them specific examples. You can ask for a developmental screening. I know you heard her say, like with her older son, they were kind of like, oh no, like, sometimes we as moms know, like, no, we really feel like there's something more, or as parents. You can push for that. That's okay. You can say like, I want this screening done. And then, or you refer to a specialist. A lot of people will go to UVA. I know that's a big one. So a developmental pediatrician, pediatric neurologist, or a child psychologist. Request an evaluation. So early intervention. I like how she set this out for you guys. So early intervention. So for children under 3, so you can self-refer to your state's early intervention program for free or low-cost evaluations. Once they get into the school system, you can request a special education evaluation through your school system, even before kindergarten. I know they'll do it in the early childhood classes. So we can have students diagnosed and have an IEP, an individualized program for them to access their education in the school, and they don't have to have an outside diagnosis. Like, they could still have one within. But I will say it is kind of nice when you have it also outside from a physician. So you can do the private evaluation, so consider a licensed child psychologist, developmental pediatrician, or neuropsychologist for a formal autism diagnostic assessment. And then get support services. So once that diagnosis is confirmed, speech therapy for communication. Again, like I said, that's huge. Communication is a huge barrier. Occupational therapy for sensory or fine motor needs. Behavioral therapy, that's where we talk about the ABA or alternatives for skill building. And you don't have to wait for an official diagnosis to begin many of the services. Insurance covers a lot of the services. And like I said, even with the behavior therapy, there's therapeutic horseback riding. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, which I actually love, even though ABA says it's not real, but I like it. So there are a lot of things out there, some different things and different ways to. Sometimes you have to be creative, in what works for your child. Did anybody have any questions about any of these steps, concerns? I know we've had children come in for joy. We always wait for the parents to, if they have a question, but, they've even asked me, because I'll work with them, they're like, can you tell me what you think? And I'm like, I will not do that. But I recommend you talk, I can tell you what I observe. I'm not going to say what I think that your child has something, but I always tell them to go to their pediatrician, talk to their pediatrician about their concerns. All right. I like this iceberg. So this is going on to the ADHD part. I always enjoy this because I feel like it's a good representation. So this is what you see above, right? You see the inattention. You see the impulsivity and the hyperactivity. What you don't see is all the stuff inside that they're feeling. It can be poor sleep, mood swings, sensory issues, adults overspending, low self-esteem, trouble with time management, anxiety, irritability, learning difficulties, trouble with working memory, and difficulty maintaining relationships. So even when I'm talking to teachers, I'm like, you see this, and I know it can be very frustrating when you have a child that has ADHD and this is what you're seeing. You're like, oh my gosh, just sit down, But they're dealing with all these things underneath that we don't see. So just kind of thinking about that and understanding how difficult it is for them. Yes?
And I'm one of them that has that.
Yeah.
And also I have autism.
Mm-hmm.
So, I kind of a spendaholic. I like going shopping
You do? Yeah.
when I have the money, because that depends on what I can get and what I can't get.
Right.
Because money can go so far, when it's gone, it's not resurrectable. Denver on T.
I know. Isn't that sad? That's sad, right?
Money is money. Yeah, it's funny. Money is money, but it's not everything in life.
Oh, exactly. Right.
God
Right.
is everything to us.
Yes.
And also, money can be the root of all evil.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And
Yep. But it still can make you want to spend it, right? You still want to spend it.
well, there's a catch. Money can get you the things you want, and also the things that you need to get. Like, I get SSDI from the government, $2,220 for each month. So my mom doesn't want me living in an apartment, which would be a big problem. So we're going to transform her house, that's just 5 minutes away from here, into an apartment for downstairs, her basement, to be my apartment, my battleground or testing ground, if you will.
Right.
Because I can't afford a expensive
Yeah.
apartment, because they're too expensive here in Winchester or Stevens City.
Yes, they
They're
are.
nice looking, but they're spacious, but
Yeah.
claustrophobic apartments I can't tolerate.
Right. Yeah. It is very expensive. That's for sure. I agree. Well, I think that's a great alternative, and you still get your own space, right? And will you have your own kitchen? Like, will you have all of that, like your own independent kitchen and that stuff? Even though I know you said you don't always like. Do you cook at all?
I need supervision.
Okay.
Because I don't want to put myself in the hospital.
Well, yeah, that's good.
And also, our tiny refrigerator downstairs died because it's on the wrong setting and it's frozen shut and we can't open it.
Oh no.
So we now have to get, which is my idea, to get a mini refrigerator like the ones they have at Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
Those tall ones. Like I could get one of those easily and make it my own.
Right.
Because I wouldn't have to use my mom's refrigerator upstairs, but I can use her refrigerator from time to time,
Yeah.
not every day.
Right. Well, it's nice to have that independence, right? I mean,
Independence.
everybody wants their
Well,
independence.
independence is hard to come by.
That's true.
But also, I'm a temp at the Access Independence.
Oh, okay, good.
It's also 5 minutes away from your office on Hope Drive.
Okay.
It's right across the street from the Social Security Administration Office where Arby's is.
And you enjoy that?
It's a good atmosphere. Melody Crossway is my boss, and also Charles Harbaugh IV, who's the mayor of Middletown, and also looks like Wayne Gretzky and Bob Clinton, which I
love.
I have evidence. I have evidence. And also, it's very nice there because they want to train me to be a mandated type reporter for like abuse or neglect that can happen in we got a wasp in here.
I see that.
Ouch. I used to be allergic to bees. So those type of stinging insects kind of threaten me.
Mm-hmm.
So
We'll keep an eye on it for you.
I like working at Access Independence, but I can only work there Monday through Thursday, 3 hours a day.
Okay.
And they'll be giving me, since I can't get a paycheck, they'll be giving me rewards like incentives.
Yeah.
So it's beneficial to me and what I can do besides what I can do at home.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's important, which you can say too, like, all of our students, I mean, I feel like all of my students can work. I mean, there's a very minimal amount of children that I think will go out and not be able to work at some point. I mean, I think you can learn those skills, right? You can learn those skills and you can have a job. Like, I feel like every one of my students can have something that they can be doing. I know at Hanley High School when I worked there, we had programs where we actually took the students out and we already had them working at jobs. Like, they would work at Kohl's Distribution Center, at the hospital, and a lot of times they would end up hiring them after they graduated because they've already been there and they know them and they know that they're a good worker. So here is the autism versus ADHD, just to kind of show you there are similarities. So with ASD, so it's social communication challenges, restricted repetitive behaviors, and then ADHD, maybe socially impulsive or intrusive. So they both have difficulty with the executive functioning. I just realized that's not typed right. May have trouble maintaining the similarities. May have trouble maintaining peer relations. Attention regulation issues. Let me put that in title. Look, I got this from ChatGPT this morning. Less common, but they show repetitive motor activity. May have emotional outbursts due to frustration. Usually autism spectrum disorder is diagnosed earlier, but ADHD can also be diagnosed early childhood. But for autism, it's usually between 2 and 4 that they've already realized that that diagnosis can be met. So let's see if there's anything else we need to talk about. But attention deficit, let's look at that. So talking excessively, socially impulsive, easily distracted, sensory processing, repetitive behaviors, managing emotions. So see how a lot of those things that are also ADHD look similar to things that are autism spectrum disorder. Does anybody have any questions? This is my last slide, I think. So any other questions? No? Yes?
Go ahead.
Carrie, any medications? I mean, not that you're a doctor or whatever, but Are there medications that would help either with the ADHD or with autism spectrum?
A lot of my students do end up on some different medications. It's hard. Obviously, they speak to their doctor. I had a student last year that went through several different ones, especially when they're non-speaking. It's really difficult because they can't tell you how it feels when they're on the medication. So unfortunately, I feel bad. It's kind of like trial and error a lot of times where they know the things that work for certain behaviors. A lot of times for the students with autism, it is more of those ADHD tendencies that they're medicated for. Another thing for children with autism, they have a really hard time sleeping at night. So sometimes it's just to help them sleep. They'll wake up. I've had students that they're like, oh, they've been up since 2 a.m. and then they tried to make pancakes. It's just, and they'll be up from that time until the next day. They have a really hard time sleeping. So that's the biggest thing. I don't know specific medications. I know of some that they've, because the parents will tell me. But unfortunately, it doesn't always, it is a lot of trial and error. A lot of times they'll have to try something and see if that works. I had a very aggressive student last year that we tried. He eloped a lot. He was throwing things. They tried to make it there was no difference. And then they had to try something else. He actually ended up going to another school. So I don't know if they've figured out what works for him. I've had other students, though, that have been on medication and now he's off of medication completely, which was controlling his ADHD. So he definitely has a lot of energy and needs to jump on the trampoline. But he speaks a lot more. So it is really he actually is better off of medication. So it's very interesting. It just really is that trial and error.
So medication is more likely to be used with ADHD because they're at least, if they're able to communicate and let feedback. I think my grandson had been diagnosed with ADHD, and I think he's in college, but he was having trouble comprehending classes and what the tests were and all that. But I think he was able to function better with some kind of medication. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, and it does help a lot of time. And there's always accommodations for that as well. One of my good friends, her son, he actually has an IEP in school. You would never know. He talks to you. He has this rich language. He just has a very hard time if he's reading something and taking that in. We talked about the comprehension part. A lot of times it's if they can hear it. So sometimes even if they're reading, and it may be, we were talking about that too. Sometimes if you read it to them or they hear it, it's read aloud or they watch it, they can comprehend it better. But when they're reading it, there's just something that does not, there's a misfire and they cannot read something and then tell you what they read or explain it. But if they've seen it or heard it, and there's, and you, even in colleges, they have accommodations for that stuff. You can listen to read aloud. You can do, it doesn't have to be, and it doesn't mean they can't read, but it's just that reading and comprehending at the same time is very difficult.
Carrie?
Yes.
What's your cell number in case if I need to reach you?
I have my email up there, which I can give you. I don't know if you want to we can write it down. I can write it down for you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What about
Miss Rucker, Lori Rucker. Yeah. You want to give?
I'd like to make a comment on medication.
Uh-huh.
I am a recently retired family doc with a special interest in mental health.
Mm-hmm.
There are good medicines for autism associated with aggressiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I don't know of any medications that are specifically helpful.
Right.
I think that many autistic children have ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
That is very frequent.
Mm-hmm.
And while I think counseling is really helpful, I also think a trial of certain medications could definitely help with both the ADHD and the autism. If you control the ADHD, the autism is somewhat better. So that's just
just helping, sometimes just that impulsivity, right? In that, I have students like that now that, like I said, the one I had, he was on the medication. When he was on it, he didn't talk a lot. He was very quiet and he was focused, but all he would focus on is drawing and cutting out numbers. Like, he loves numbers. When he got off of the medication, he stopped doing, like, he almost, when he would get anxious, like, that's what he would go to, and he wanted to do that all day. And now he's actually more open to other things being off the medication. But it's a lot of trial and error, like, and it, with them all being so different, you have to try different types, and it can take a while to really find what works. Yes.
What are reputable current researchers saying about the rise in autism?
Honestly, I think there's many debates on that, so I didn't really go into that much because there's so many debates. I think a lot of it is just, now that they've defined it as this spectrum, I think they're just diagnosing more, because where before it would be like, oh, they're just a little quirky. I mean, that sounds funny, but that's what we used to do, right? Like, now they're like, oh, they're on the spectrum and they have autism. So I think a lot of it's just understanding the diagnosis better.
Okay.
And if you're a doctor, like, you could speak to that more than me probably, but I do think that's a lot, just understanding the, that knowing it better and understanding that it is such a spectrum. So it's not, I think before it used to be like, if you were so far, it's like, oh, they definitely have it. But like, there's many more that do. Like we said, I mean, looking at like those famous people, like, you would maybe never know that. I mean, there's plenty of people, we probably are around people all the time that actually have autism spectrum disorder, and we may not even know because it's not as detectable necessarily, but it doesn't mean they don't have it or any of those deficits.
Yeah, that's the difference between autism and ADHD or ADD. You notice the autistic person, you don't really notice the ADD person because they can blend in. One thing that's alike with them is the autistic person will specialize in one thing and learn it a lot, where the ADD person will hyper-focus on things.
Yeah, that can sometimes look very similar, which I learned more because I didn't know a lot about ADHD, but then that can also look similar though between the person with autism spectrum and then the person with ADHD, because they will be so focused on those, like, they can both kind of hyper-focus on stuff.
One thing about the ADD and the ADHD, the ADHD, they changed it to ADD because boys usually have the hyperactivity for the most part. And when you say ADHD, that takes out most of the girls that have ADD. And so we switched it to ADD.
And it's interesting in both that usually, well, I know in autism in particular, it's more prevalent in boys, at least the diagnosis side, but I think really it's just the females a lot of times show it differently, and it's the same with the ADD. Like, it just shows differently outwardly when they have those diagnoses.
And one of the things I noticed with the autistic person too is they have a hard time reading people's cues. Well, me with ADD, I have a hard time reading people's cues. So many people wanted to friend me and I didn't pick it up.
Right,
and
right.
After you go away, my wife said, that person wants to be your friend, and you just move cordial to them, that was it.
Yeah.
Pick it up, I can see it.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
You don't see what's right in front of you sometimes.
That's true. That's true. Yes.
Carrie, what causes, are they hereditary, are they environmental? What research, I know obviously, more recent, there's a lot more research and trying to figure things out, but any likely causes?
I mean, that's another one, kind of going back to you, where there's more, like, I think there's always those philosophy, you have people that think like, oh, it's, you'll hear it's vaccinations, you'll hear it's, all kinds of things.
You'll hear everybody has ADHD.
Yeah. Some people will say everybody's on the spectrum. For ADHD is a spectrum. Everybody is on it. Everybody has autism. Everybody's, like, you hear those too, right? Like, everybody has a little bit.
You'll hear you have it as a child, not as an adult.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that go on out there that my daughter's boyfriend has autism, and so then then at work they were like, we think you have the tism. That's what they would tell her. I was like, oh my gosh. And her boyfriend's like, no, you don't. But I mean, some people think that, like, oh, everybody has this or they have that. But no, it looks like mostly hereditary. Like, when you go back, you can usually see. And as you kind of work like on my end, working with families, like, I'll see it a lot where I'm like, yeah, like, you can see, like, one of the parents usually has, And not every, and it could go back further. I mean, like we said, I think the problem is it wasn't diagnosed before. So we won't always hear about, maybe there was a great grandparent that had it, but they may not realize that's what it was because they didn't know what it was at that time. Yeah. So I think that's a big part of it, is just understanding. We were talking about what, the 90, like just the change from then to now, you know what I mean? Like it's just huge when you look back in the 60s. I mean, they were putting them in psych wards. You know, I mean, like there's huge differences if you look at like how things have progressed over time.
I grew up in the 60s and I was considered a bad kid because I had ADHD and they didn't know what ADHD was, so you were just a bad kid.
So you're just naughty.
Yeah.
That's why I like the iceberg though. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I do feel, even still, I think people think that like, oh my gosh, they just can't listen, they can't behave. But like, you have to look at all those things that are like inside that we don't see, right? Like, yeah.
I had a nephew that was put on Ritalin when he was young in school, and it made him worse.
Yeah.
Come to find out, Ritalin takes the dopamine, and it uses the dopamine to try to fix you, and you need the dopamine. You're lacking the dopamine, and by taking that away, it makes you worse.
Yeah, usually it's stimulants that help like you would think they don't need a stimulant, but it's usually a stimulant that works.
I used coffee before I started taking medication,
Mm-hmm.
and it helped.
And I feel like it seems opposite, like what you would normally think, right? Like somebody is hyper, but you give them a stimulant, and that's actually what works.
If I drank
Yep.
coffee while I was at work, I was fine.
Yeah. So you had to learn all those coping methods before you.
Found medication.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
I
interesting.
never had a problem sleeping. I slept late at night when I was a kid.
I think it's more the children with autism. They have a lot of them have a really difficult time. Any other questions? I've been talking a lot. Yes.
I just want to let everybody know that John bravely took on the wasp, smashed it, and I gave it burial at sea in the men's room.
Very nice.
Another one of his superpowers.
Oh my gosh.
Is Lori a professional with the same kind of stuff that you do?
No.
What does she do?
I just love people.
She works with numbers.
Superpower.
She works with numbers.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm a number cruncher.
She gets me my check when I do work for them.
That's right.
Very important.
Very important job.
I also have a special needs husband I have to take
Yes,
care
you
of.
do.
Oh my gosh.
I think all women have that.
That's called marriage.
Is there anything
I'm
else?
only joking. Okay, but I had to say that for Paul and Mark because they both know my husband.
That's funny.
That's good.
Is there anything else you wanted to add though? Because it's great. Like I actually went through when I picked out that video about the lady that talked about the dials. I actually had my daughter's boyfriend look at it because I was like, I don't ever want to put something out there that is not good at conveying like how it really is. Because I mean, I don't know. I just know from the education standpoint. I know from what I've learned. I don't experience it myself, so I try to make sure like I really
You know,
understand.
autism